What is up, fellas? TheGOOB here with another episode of Rewriting History with me, TheGOOB. This is part 2 of OOPArts, Out of Place Artifacts. I've got a long list. I don't think I'm going to get to all of them today. What is up, fellas? There we go. TheGOOB here. I am, in fact, streaming this time. Of Rewriting History with me, TheGOOB. This is part 2 of OOPArts, Out of Place Artifacts. Oh, it's on my phone. I've got a long list. I don't think I'm going to get to all of them today. There we go. Okay. All right. I am live this time, though, so that is better than last week. Making progress. And I'm sideways again. This is always fun. Oh my goodness, technical difficulties. I don't know why this happens. I don't really know how to fix it. There we go. All right, we're back. And then it breaks again. Fellas, I wanted to talk briefly about let me just restart this. I want to talk briefly about the Aztecs a little bit that I was talking about last week. Here we go. Hopefully this works this time. I see that it's not, though. I'm sideways still. This is frustrating. There we go. All right. We're good. Trying to unmute. There we go. All right, so last week I was talking about Quetzalcoatl, and I believe I mentioned Cortez also, and how less than 50 years before Cortez got to the Americas, there were reports of these cities of gold and this massive civilization that was as large as Europe, both in population and in like footprint. When Cortez got there, none of that was left. I mean, there were a few cities left. He did conquer a couple locations, but everything had already disappeared into the jungle. And we were having a great conversation about this on the Low Value Mail Discord server, which is the only Discord server I'm really in currently. If there's any demand, if you guys want it, I could potentially start my own, but it's still pretty small, so I don't know if there's any demand for that yet. Probably not. But let me know. But yeah, we were having a great conversation about the Aztecs, and Mr. Flimmets posted a picture of Detroit that was 8 years apart, I believe. And these houses had completely been consumed by the vegetation. And he also pointed out that someone was still somewhat, at least, maintaining the yards. And within 8 years, these houses had already completely disappeared, even with some maintenance going on. So the rainforest, the Amazon rainforest, with the most fertile earth in the world, Terra Preta, which is an OOPArt of itself to some degree, because it's man-made, it's thousands of years later, still the most fertile earth in the world, or at least hundreds of years, if not thousands. And so being closer to the equator, getting way more sun, having the most fertile earth in the world, it would take a very, very short time for these cities to just completely vanish within the rainforest and be consumed. So I was saying 50 years, I think, and I was saying that just to, I guess, kind of be safe, but I think it could be far less that people were there seeing these things, and then Cortez gets there and they've totally vanished. And as I mentioned, he was conquering an already defeated people, a civilization that had already collapsed. And then a little bit more about Quetzalcoatl. So as I was saying last week, there's a lot of parallels between him and Jesus. And another parallel that I didn't mention is that Quetzalcoatl was supposed to return, just like Jesus. And so when Cortez showed up on the beach with his boys, and these people who were holding on to the Quetzalcoatl religion and believing in him and believing in his return, and they see him, it makes sense as to why so many of them joined him so quickly and so easily to go oust the, false rulers, if you will, because that's how he was able to conquer these people, is that a large portion of the civilians or whomever joined him and fought alongside him to take down the leadership. And then someone brought up Nezahualcoyotl. I don't know really how to say it, but this guy was in the 1400s, prior to anyone from Europe getting there, at least allegedly. And you can look up him, you can look up his son, because if you look up Nezahualcoyotl, let's just do it real quick, at least on Google, right, which I talk all the time about how censored it is and how you really can't rely on the results. But if you look at the images of this guy, you'll get two very different images. You see this one, which looks like an Aztec, and then you see this one, and there's a couple other, but those are the two main ones, which definitely looks like a bearded, blonde, or even red-haired white guy. But if you look up Nezahualcoyotl's son, the guy who took over after him, it's this guy here. I would say, again, that looks like a white guy. Maybe a bit more mixed. I think his wife might have been a native. Just pointing out that even before Europeans got to the Americas, there were whites there, So where did those white natives come from? Why are there white natives and brown natives in the Americas? Were they always here, or are those maybe descendants of Quetzalcoatl? And Nezahualcoyotl seems somewhat vaguely similar to Quetzalcoatl. I don't have any knowledge or expertise on Aztec names, so they seem vaguely similar to me. They've got some similar letters in them, so maybe there's a bit of relation there. Could be a direct descendant of him and his people. Who knows? Let's go white boys. That's right, Mr. Galunas. So that's all I had to say on last week's episode, just re-emphasizing just how destructive nature can be, just how quickly it can consume. And we really have no idea why they collapsed. It seems like a disease is probable just because so many cities were left completely empty and abandoned. The population dropped so quickly across such a wide area. And we really don't know what it is. But nature, not only diseases, but just trees growing, it can be incredibly destructive. And that's like nature at its normal level, right? Just the rainforest growing. That's nothing cataclysmic. And cataclysmic things happen all the time. So just re-emphasizing that idea of destruction within our world, because so much is destroyed and lost. But on to the OOPArts. I made notes this time, guys. I came prepared. And I don't think we're going to get through this list, but we'll see how far down it we get. So starting with some big glass, some big glass. Here it is. So this doesn't really look like glass here, but that is a 9-ton slab of glass in this cave here, over in Israel. I didn't write a date in my notes, but it's old. I could check here. So this giant glass slab, let's see, 9th century. So over 1,000 years old. I thought it was older. Still a very cool artifact. So over 1,000 years ago in Israel, they were producing 9-ton glass slabs. This one is solid white because the cave that they created it in, when the fires were burning, they got so hot that they actually flaked off pieces of the limestone cave, increasing the lime content in the glass, which turned it opaque. And that's likely why that glass slab is still in situ and was never used. I heard some people talking about this and wondering if it was meant to be a window for some great fortress, maybe the Temple of Solomon or some other massive fortress with huge impenetrable windows. But then I was doing more research on it, and I found the idea that this was just a giant chunk of glass that they would then break up and remelt to create other things with it. And honestly, that makes a lot more sense. You can see this thing is massive. I mean, these people are sitting next to it. It's several inches thick. I don't know exactly how thick, but I don't know. Seems unlikely that it actually was meant to be a window. Breaking it up, remelting it, making smaller things with it, probably more likely, even though it's less exciting. So that's the first glass OOPArt. 9 tons of glass. I mean, that's really impressive. And this was not a one-off. We've really only found this cave, but it's pretty indicative that they knew what they were doing. They probably did this more than once. This was a thing they did. Other than the cave limestone flaking off into the glass, like, they executed it exquisitely. So the next is, I don't have any images for it because no images exist. It's just a story. A story about Tiberius Caesar 2,000 years ago. Messing up my windows. Here we go. You could make a 9-ton bong with it. 2,000 years ago, Tiberius Caesar, emperor of Rome, he's doing his ruling thing. And this guy walks into his palace and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Emperor, I've got something you're going to want to see." And he pulls out this glass bowl and he presents it to the emperor. And the emperor's like, "What is this piece of trash? You insult me with this plain glass bowl? Get this out of here." And he throws it at him. But instead of shattering, it just bounced off the floor. And the guy picked up his glass bowl, pulled out his tiny little hammer, tin, 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 and undented it, formed it back into shape, and presented it to the emperor again. And he goes, "Indestructible, flexible glass." And the emperor is, in fact, impressed. So impressed that he asks the guy, "Does anyone else know about this? Who else is making this stuff?" And the guy goes, "Oh no, Mr. Emperor, it's just me. I am the only man with the secret formula for the flexible glass." And so Caesar kills the guy, destroys the glass, and covers up any evidence of it. Now, this is a pretty well-known story. Obviously, it's been circulating for 2,000 years. I kind of lean towards the idea that it is just a story, because the entire idea is that Caesar didn't want anyone to know about this technology. He killed the guy right there on the spot, destroyed the glass immediately. So how did this become such a well-known story? It's kind of the perfect story. Like, if you were trying to make up a story about something like that, that's exactly how you would tell it. I think the idea is plausible. I mean, some type of metallic glass or glass-like metal, potentially even plastic, was developed. It's not entirely unreasonable. But from the description, he's pulling out a hammer, hitting it back into place, kind of like it's a metal bowl. it's not unfeasible for me. There's so much, and we're gonna cover some of the crazy things that are in the past, and this is barely scratching the surface. But there is so much, and the destruction of so much. There's so much we don't know about. It's not a stretch for me to think that something like that could have existed, but it's a perfect story. It's a little too perfect of a story. It's so widespread. I think it's just a story. And on to the most exciting piece of glass, which was the thumbnail for the video. This is the lycurgic cup, or the lycurgus cup. And let me see. I really need a video of it, but I didn't pull up a video of it before the stream. Let's see if I can get one that highlights some stuff for me. Here we go. This is a good image. So that's a terrible image. I thought it was going to be big. It says it's going to be big, but it's not. Okay, that's unfortunate. So anyways, if you look here, you can see that all of these vines, which have little leaves on them, this is extremely detailed. You see the muscles, you see the boots, you see the nipples. I mean, look at those nips could cut glass. But these vines are separate from the cup. And then I wasn't able to find a good internal shot, but you can see a little bit here. These bodies, the people, are hollowed out so the glass maintains its same thickness throughout. This is an absolutely master craftsman level of glasswork. I mean, let's ignore the color for a second. I'll get to the amazing color on this thing, but this is just an absolute masterpiece of craftsmanship. Blowing this glass, I hate using the statement that we can't do this today, and I bet we probably could, but I bet you it is a very, very small handful, like 5 people or less in the entire world who would be capable. I don't know that for any certainty. I'm just looking at this and going, holy crap, this is incredible. I don't think there'd be a whole lot of people who could do this today. And you see the body hollowed out, maintaining the thickness of the glass, but then also the arms separated. You can see the shadow there, right? Everything lifted. It's just absolutely exquisite. And there's images all the way around. You see this side, you see this side throwing the rock, you see this guy with the spear. It's an absolutely incredible piece of work. And then it changes colors. This is a solid green glass. It is a green glass, but when you shine light through it, it turns red. It turns very red. When you shine light through it, it's bright red, and with just light from the outside, it is a solid green glass. Now, the explanation from the mainstream historians for how this thing was created, purely by accident. They didn't mean to do this. They didn't know what they were doing. This master craftsman who created this absolute masterpiece of glassware, again, ignoring the color, just the craftsmanship of the glassware, he didn't know what he was doing. He wasn't trying to make colored glass. He's just an idiot who did this on accident. Because to do this successfully, you have to have exactly the right concentrations of, I think it's like silver and gold nanoparticles that are mixed into this glass to create this effect. And you have to have exactly the right mixture and concentration. And then you have to have exactly the right glass thickness, which this has very consistently, 360 all the way around the cup, even throughout the individual figures themselves. It maintained this perfect mixture of micrometals in the glass at the perfect thickness to achieve exactly the results that this guy was clearly going for. This is not an accident at all. It's the only one we've found because this thing is, I think this is 1,400 years old. let me check the date on this here. Yeah, about 14. No, about 1600 years old, 1700 years old. So yeah, just an accident, just a fluke. They didn't mean to make that at all. Those idiots, those primitive savages. This one isn't necessarily an OOPArt. It's not treated as an OOPArt by, historians. They just go look at these incredible puzzle balls. So these are Chinese ivory puzzle balls. And these things are absolutely insane. This is one solid piece of ivory. And inside you can see there's another ball here. There's